Welcome all. Just want to note before we get started that each participant should have received the source material for today's shiur by email. If you haven't received it, please click on the Zoom chat button and provide Sheila your email address, and she'll be happy to email it to you. I'm so pleased to welcome Rabbi Avrohom Kaplan to lead this Talmudic shiur on Tisha B'Av. While today we reflect on very somber events in our Jewish history which preceded our exile, it is our special relationship with God embodied in the Torah that has been the common purpose binding our people together through the great many generations, through the toughest of times. This has caused even Gentile observers of history, such as Mark Twain, to remark on the resilience of our people when he noted, "The Egyptian, the Babylonian, and the Persian rose, filled the planet with splendor, then faded to dream stuff and passed away. The Greek and the Roman followed and made a vast noise, and they are gone. Other peoples have sprung up and held their torch high for a time, but it burned out, and they sit in twilight now or have vanished. The Jew saw them all, eat them all, and is now what he always was, exhibiting no decadence, no infirmities of age, no weakening of his parts, no slowing of his energies, no dulling of his alert and aggressive mind. All the things are mortal but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret of his immortality?" In the midst of our current challenges, coming together today with the common purpose of bringing meaning to watershed events which happened millennia ago is such a poignant illustration of Mark Twain's observation. I'm so thankful to Rabbi Kaplan for bringing context and meaning to our observance of Tisha B'Av with the Talmudic perspective of the events that gave rise to the destruction of the temple. Rabbi Kaplan and I have studied Talmud together for over 2 years, and his fascinating insights, spiritual mentorship, friendship, not to mention tons of patience, thank you, Rabbi, is something I cherish beyond measure. Before I turn the floor over to Rabbi Kaplan, I just want to provide a note as to the format of the shiur, which is scheduled for approximately 2 hours with intermittent breaks for questions. If you do have a question or comment, you can raise your hand during these breaks, making sure that we can see you. And when Rabbi Babbage or Jacob Gold calls on you, please unmute your audio so that we can hear you. We hope for a very spirited and lively discussion. And with that, please welcome Rabbi Kaplan.
Thank you, Rabbi Avrohom Shalom, for the beautiful introduction, Larry. And it so happened to be that Mark Twain, when he wrote it, it happened in a visit to Israel, to Eretz Yisrael, and he saw some Jewish people eating there by the crying for the churban, the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. And he approached them and he said, "What happened?" And they explained to him that they are basically mourning the destruction of the temple. So he asked them, "How many years ago was it?" And they respond, like a few thousand years. So he said, if you could have people mourning after a couple of thousand years, this nation will never be wiped out. And we will always here, and we've always been here till Mashiach is going to come. We gathered here together to commemorate the churban, the destruction of the Beis Rishon, the first Beis Hamikdash, the first temple, and the second one, and many other unfortunate things that happened in the Jewish history, in the Klal Yisrael, over the years. The Gemara actually starts with Omar Rabbi Yochanan. In Medrash it says Rabbi Yochanan had composed 60 kinesin, put together 60 kinesin that describes the churban, the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Rabbi only put together 24. And the Gemara asks, Chazal explained, what is it that Rabbi, he only put together 24 and Rabbi Yochanan had put together 60? And they explained the following. Rabbi was one generation before Rabbi Yochanan, and he was closer to the churban, to the destruction than Rabbi Yochanan. He felt more the churban, the destruction. More than 24 kinesin he couldn't put together. He collapsed after the 24. Rabbi Yochanan was one generation after, so he was able to handle 60. The Gemara in Baba Kama tells us a story about Eliezer Zeiri. He was walking around with shoes that we wear today on Tisha B'Av, slippers, that usually when people lose a member in the family, when they're mourning, they wear these kind of shoes. So the rabbis asked them, what happened? Why are you wearing the shoes? And his response was, I'm mourning on the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, of the temple. The rabbis locked them up. They felt that, are you worthy, are you fit to be the one mourning on Yerushalayim? They felt that he was a little bit about guy, a little big shot, a little bit, what he's doing. Until they challenged them, they questioned him, and they saw that he's a big rabbi, and they said, yeah, you are fit to be mourning on Yerushalayim. Rabbi say, this is during the year that a person has to be fit for it. Now in Tisha B'Av, there are the 3 weeks, there are the 9 days, there are the week of Tisha B'Av, and there is Tisha B'Av. This is all work to work ourselves up, that we should be able to be fit to be mourning on Yerushalayim. We should feel the emptiness that we all said in Kinnis this morning, all the things that happened while the Beis Hamikdash was built, how Yerushalayim looked, and we have to prepare ourselves that we should be able to be fit for it. We all know, don't know if there was any Holocaust virus on the Shia now, or children of grandchildren. We all have some kind of relation, family members. I had grandparents, great-grandparents, uncles that were killed. Anyone closer feels it more. Our job today is to try that we should relate and we should be part and feeling the churban, the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Says in Chazal, every generation that the Beis Hamikdash is not built in their generation, it's like it was destroyed. Can we imagine that today the Beis Hamikdash would be destroyed and would be burning? How would we feel? But this is what Chazal tell us, the rabbis tell us, that a year that the Beis Hamikdash was not built in their year, it was like even was destroyed now. So we should try. We're going to be learning soon the Gemaras, what led up to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, and what happened while the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, and all the other terrible things that happened to the Klal Yisrael. I heard from Rabbi Gifter, Zichrono Livrocha, the Talzer Rosh Yeshiva. He was an American boy that went, when he was 17 years old, he went to learn in Europe, in Telz. He didn't come home, not for the summer vacation, not the midwinter vacation, not for Yontev. He was there for 5 years. And he spoke about the Churban, the destruction, the Holocaust from before and after, and throughout the Jewish history. The Jews, after the first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, they went to Golus, to exile, then they came back, then they went again to Golus, then they went to Africa, then they went to Spain, then they went to Italy, France, and then they went throughout Europe. Every time when Klal Yisrael, the Jewish nation, went to exile, they took along and they continued what went on before they went to exile. He said over that the Chaim Volozhinel, the one that started the Volozhiner Yeshiva, this was the first yeshiva in Europe. Once at his Talmud, the Nachlas David, that the last station for the Jews before Mashiach is going to come will be the United States of America, will be America. And he was crying bitterly about it. So he's telling me that Nachlas David asked him, what happened? So he explained to him, he said, the price that we're going to pay for it. He didn't mention the 6 million Jews, but that's what he referred to. Will be enormous. And the hardship to build it here in America would be very, very difficult. And it is difficult. And his main point was that it is not the same from before and after. He said over an incredible story that he was walking with his uncle, which was the Rosh Yeshiva of Telz in Europe. They were walking, it was a street that it was called the Nabrane Way. And he was talking and learning with his uncle, the Rosh Yeshiva. On the side were cornfields. Fields that were growing corn. The farmer turns around to them and he said, how about while you're walking, maybe walk on my field? So they asked him, what for? So he responded and he said, I don't know. However, when the boys of the yeshiva walk on my field and they talk and learning, the field produces much better corn. So please walk on my fields. That what his point was, that a guy, a Litvish guy in Europe, understood the value of Torah, the value of learning. And that when he was crying, that how is it here in America, do we value today, do we have the same kind of value to appreciate what learning does? In Yirmiyahu, there's a pasuk. Mi yayish a chacham v'yavin zois. Who is the smart man which could explain it, which you understand that? Ve'asher diber pi Hashem elam. and who is the Navi, which Hashem spoke to him, Ve'yagido, and he should tell us, Almo of the Oretz, what caused the destruction of the land of the Beis Hamikdash? Nitiso Kamidbar, it was burned like a desert, Mibli Oiver, no one passed by there. Which, by the way, I want to point out a Ramban, to the fascinating Rabbanic Chumash, that he said Eretz Yisrael would only be popular while Jews are there. When Jews will not be there, no one will be there. And this is Amo of the Oretz, Nisaso Kamidbo Mibli Oiver. And if you look back in the history, the minute Jews started coming to Israel, and that's where everyone else started joining. So the question, and we're going to read it in the Gemara in a moment, it's a question that I would ask to the smart people, to the Nevi'im, the Gemara says, Malachi HaShoreis, and what caused the destruction? And no one was able to answer. Vayomer Hashem, and Hashem is saying, you know why this happened? Al osvot teirasi, for leaving my learning. Asher nosati lifneihem, which I gave to them, v'lishomu b'koili v'liolchu bo. The Bitzale Blazer, the Bitzel Peterburger, he was one of the big Talmudim of Rabbi Salanta. We started the Musa movement, and there was a Rav in Peterburg, and he asked, he doesn't understand. The question was raised, Almo of the Oretz. No one could have answered that. And then Hashem had to answer, Vayomer Hashem al ozvom esterasi. Shouldn't that be an obvious answer to everyone? And if they couldn't have answered, that means that they didn't feel that way. They felt that the Jews were learning. So what is it that Hashem revealed to us, Al-Ozva Meteirasi, that they left my Torah? And these other questions, one other question which a few people had mentioned to me recently, there's a lot of different quotes in Chazal, what caused the destruction. Here clearly it says, Al-Ozva Meteirasi. Other places it says that they did a lot of bad things then at that time. They did Avodah Zorah, they worshiped idols, Gilui Arayos, and Shvichus Damim, murder. There was a lot of bad things. And that's not mentioned here in the Pasuk. So what really caused it? And the other question is really the question with the answer. Now what is it that the learning did not have an impact, and despite them learning, they will still be able to do such terrible things? I'm just going to read this Gemara. This Gemara is quoted by Mitzvah and in the Dorim. The Gemara sagt, the Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Mai Dichsiv, Mi Yoish HaChocham B'Yovin Nisois, Dover Ze Nishalu LaChachamim. It was questioned to the smart people, to the prophet people, to those that give the views. And the Bach has the Malachi HaShoreis. And they did not explain that. Until Hashem came along by himself. Skipping a line. They didn't do Bichas HaTorah. Abital Plaza explained this Gemara with another Gemara. It's a Gemara that says in Broches, L'olam yalgiz odom yetzer tova yetzer hara. A man should always create a war zone between the yetzer tov and the yetzer hara. Nitzchoi Mutov. Did he succeed the war? Great. If not, Yasoik Batoiro should start learning. The Gemara continues. Nitzchoi Mutov. He succeeded. Great. Otherwise, Vim Lav Ikro Krishma. Should learn Krishma. Nitzchoi Mutov. He succeeded. Great. Vim Lav of the Yom HaMiso. So Rabbi Avrohom asks, we know Barosi Yetzer Hara, Barosi Lo Torah Tavlin. Hashem says, the Gemara brings it down, I created the bad Yetzer, the evil Yetzer, that tries to convince us to do bad things. And I created the medicine. And I created the ammunition. And this is the only ammunition where you can fight the Yetzer Hara. And that is Torah Tavlin. And this is the learning. Ask Rabbi Avrohom, so how is it possible that the Gemara says if he learned Torah, he succeeded great, or else he should learn Krishma? What is it? The Gemara says the only way fighting the Yetzer Hara is with learning. Without learning, you cannot fight the Yetzer Hara. This is the only way, Rabbi Isai. Says Rabbi Avrohom, and this is the secret that no one knew, only Hashem revealed it to us. They are learning and they are studying. There is Torah, and there is a subject of Torah. The Gemara, the Talmud is not a subject. That is learning. And learning changes the person. And this is when it was asked to the Nevi'im, to the Chachomim, to the Malachi Asheres, what caused the destruction? They couldn't answer. They had no idea. They had no idea why Klal Yisrael was so down in the drains. They were doing all bad things. They were learning. How come the learning doesn't have an effect on them? How come the learning doesn't change them? And that they did not know. Until Hashem revealed it to us. You know what it was? They did not learn with Yirei Shamayim. It became a subject. It became like very interesting, but not as learning. Not now the time, maybe a different time we'll bring examples of the difference between the Torah of being a subject. But bottom line, says Rabbi Avrohom, this is what Hashem revealed to us. It was Torah without Yirei Shamayim. Learning without fear of Hashem, learning as a subject, does not change the person, and that they did not know. And that's why when it says in the Gemara that he succeeded the war, good or else he should read Krishma or Yaskele Mamisa, because that with the learning will bring him Yirei Shamayim. And that's what it says in Chazal. Hashem forgave on all Averos except not learning. Because without learning, says the Chazal, you can't fight the Yetzer Hara. There's no way of fighting it. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to, by the end, fall and do all the bad things. And this is what Chazal tell us. That they was learning without Yirei Shamayim, and that they didn't know, and they couldn't answer that. And that is, Rabbi Isai, what it's all the Chazal that says that they did other things. That's correct, they did other things. But the main cause of the destruction was because they did not learn, and that's what caused them to do all the other things. But now they didn't learn. They learned, but the learning was without Yirei Shamayim. Okay. Now we're going to start the Gemara. We're going to start with the first story, was the straw that broke the camel's back, which caused the actual destruction. And then we'll learn other stories here, what happened while it happened. It's Nunei Amid Beis 58b. Omar Rabbi Yochanan. Everyone has it here?
55, 55B.
55, I said. Yeah, I'm sorry. 55, you're right. 55b.
At the bottom.
Source sheets are on the email.
Yes, it's
Omar Rabbi Yochanan. Omar Rabbi Yochanan. My Dechsiv. What the pasuk is saying? Ashrei Yodov Mefachei Tamid. Praised. Fortunate is the person that is always with fear. And the one that is stubborn, he's going to end up falling in doing bad things. Tosfos on the spot asked the question. The Gemara starts, Rabbi Avrohom is saying, praise is the man which is always in fear. The Gemara in Bracha says that a man that is always in fear, that means he's a sinner, he's a choite, he's doing bad things, and that's why he's always in fear. So the Maharshal explains how we can reconcile the two things. In one place it says a person should be always fear, and the other hand, a person that is always afraid, that means that he's doing bad things. I once heard from my father that he said over from my grandfather, Rabbi Avrohom, that it says in the Jewish wars, they announce before they go out to war. Well, they give a list. The pasuk says a list of things. The last thing is Ayore Verachalevav. Someone that is weak and he's afraid. He's afraid from his avedas that he had done, of his bad things that he had committed. He should go home. So the question is, who should be going to war? Someone that is not afraid of his avedas. Of course, that someone that is afraid of his avedas, of course, he should be the one going to war. The pasuk says, Yaakov Avinu, when he went away from Lavan, he was very afraid. He was scared. Maybe I did some kind of bad things. Yaakov Avinu. So what is the shot? That if someone is afraid, he should not go to war. And my grandfather answered, of course you should be afraid. But you have to have bitochen in Hashem. That Hashem will help us. Yaakov Avinu, but he trusted that Hashem would help him. He praises the man that he's always afraid, he's always careful not to fall and not to do bad things. And if he does bad things, he hopes Hashem will forgive him. But the person that always does bad things, but he has no faith in Hashem, that person is a sinner. It was a Jewish soldier in the Israeli army that was a very brave soldier in the 6th War. The famous name was Meir Al Tzion. So they once asked him, aren't you afraid? So he responded, someone that's not afraid is not normal. You have to be afraid. You have to be able to overcome and hoping that Hashem will help us. So this is Ashri Yodom Mefachi Tomid. But Umakshi Liboy, someone that is very stubborn. What does that mean he's very stubborn? He's very confident in what he's doing. He will fall to bad things. And the Gemara is going to explain soon what exactly happened and what is it. And we're going to explain that how did we see from here that Umakshi Liboy, that if you were stubborn, that they caused them to do the bad things. Says the Gemara, Al Kamte Ubal Kamte. The Mashal said actually with the father and son. Al Kamte Ubal Kamte. Chogu Yerushalayim. And Kamte Ubal Kamte, they caused the destruction of Yerushalayim. Now the question rises immediately, what is it, the Kamte and Bar Kamte? What was Kamte's fault here? What did he do bad? Why are we mentioning his name? And the other question, which I'm sure would bother to many people, the host of the party, he's not mentioned at all. Why wasn't he mentioned? Okay, so let's go through a little of the story, and then we'll go back to these questions. The story of the two chickens, the Gemara's going to roosters, the Gemara's going to explain later on. So two Malka was destroyed. The side of a wagon, Chol Beta. Beta was destroyed. The Gemara's going to explain later on also what happened. Now the Gemara goes back. Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim was destroyed because of Kamte and Bar Kamte. Dahu Gavre. There was a man. Berachame Kamte. His friend was Kamte. Ubal Debove Bar Kamte. And his enemy was Bar Kamte. Oh, that's it. He made a party, a sudo. He told his servant, go invite me, Kamte. The servant made a mistake. Oh, and he invited him by mistake, Bal Kamte. Bal Kamte was all excited. He figured that the guy wanted to make peace with him. He invites him to the sudo. Also, all of a sudden, the host noticed that his enemy Bar Kamte is sitting by the party. This Bar Kamte is the enemy of the host. That means himself. My boy Sochi, what are you doing here? Kum, get up, pook, get out. So Bar Kamte said, oh, since I arrived here, Shafkon. Leave me. I'm pay you what I ate and drink. Omale, we go to the government medal 56A. Loy, no. Omale, I'm gonna pay you half the party. Omale, Loy, I'm not interested. Omale, ja bin noch bekule zu der side. Omale loy. Nope. I'll pay for the whole party. No. Nakte biyode. He took him in his hand. Beyuk made, he picked him up. Vafke. Omar. Bar Kamte said, oh ye. The rabbis were sitting there and they did not stand up. They didn't approach. They didn't protest. They are happy. They agree with that. I'm going to go. I'm going to go to the king and talk bad on the Klal Yisrael. Now, Rabbi Isai, we're going to go back a little bit to the questions. So what happened over here? There was a man that made a big suda, big party, he wanted to invite Kamte by mistake. The servant invited Bar Kamte, and the host noticed it, and he insisted that he must leave the party. Didn't help him, even if you offered him to pay the whole party, the whole meal. He picked him up and he threw him out. And the man said, the rabbis were here, he didn't say anything, I'm going to talk bad on them. Now, interesting, he didn't say that the guy embarrassed me, that he didn't say anything. He didn't speak about the guy, about the host. He only mentioned that the rabbis were here. What?
He was only focused on the rabbis, right?
He only commented that what the rabbis said, the rabbis were there, and they didn't say anything, must be that they're happy about it. Now, so going back to the previous questions, why was Kamtze also mentioned here? So I saw in the Malshom, and I saw others explain it, that it's a good lesson to us also. Someone makes a chasana, and he misinvites, he forgets to invite one of his close friends. No, the close friend doesn't get the invitation, so gets insulted, and he said, "The guy didn't invite me. I'm not coming to the wedding." Kamtze was a good friend of that person. He heard his friend makes a suda. Why didn't he show up? He was insulted that he didn't show up, and that is what caused the host more anger, that his friend didn't show up and his enemy showed up. And that really what got him angry, and that's why he insisted that this Kamtze should leave. Now, question is, so the person embarrassed him in front of everyone, in front of the rabbis, why didn't the rabbis speak up? So I once heard from Shalom Shvadron, he explained the following. This guy was a bad person. As we can see, he was insulted. So what did he go ahead and do? He was going to Marcel. He's going to talk bad to the king about the Jews, make up a whole story. He was ready to make up a whole story to destroy the Beis Hamikdash and Yerushalayim and the whole Klal Yisrael because he was insulted. So he was a bad person at the beginning. And the rabbis didn't feel there. They held that this person shouldn't be there. So now the question is: so what was so bad? So why was seems that this was the straw that really broke the camel's back? That this was the sinas chinam, the unnecessary hatred. This sinas chinam, which was among them, caused the whole destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. If he's such a bad person, let him go out. So there's a Maimar Chazal. It says, Elokim yevakesh es nirdof. Hashem always stands up for the nirdof, the underdog, the one who's being chased. Afilu tzadik roidev rosho. Even if he's a righteous person and chases a bad guy, Hashem sticks up for the bad guy. And this is we're going to see that, Hashem helped him the whole plan to go through with this whole destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Question is, why is it for tzaddik is chasing a bad guy? What's so bad? What do you want from the tzaddik? The answer is, say, Chazal, tzaddik gomu. If he's a complete tzaddik, he's a perfect person. He is a real tzaddik. If he chases the bad guy, then it's not a problem. The only thing he's a tzaddik, but he's far away from being perfect. He has no right to chase the bad person. He has no right to go after the bad person. And therefore, Rabbi Yisai, this is what happened over here. The pasuk starts from Rabbi Avrohom Kaplan. Someone that is stubborn. What does that mean? He's stubborn. He's overconfident in himself. He feels everything he's doing is perfect. Whatever he's going to do is the right thing to do. If a person's attitude is that whatever he's doing is the right thing and it's perfect and that this is the way it should be, he's not fear. Maybe he should check himself out a little bit. And we find that Chazal say, Kol ha'poisel b'muma b'muma poisel. Usually the big screamers and others, they themselves are far from being perfect. So since they were overconfident in themselves, they were not perfect. Therefore, Hashem stood up for this Baal Kamtzeh, for this bad person. And he helped him to go ahead and destroy the Beis Hamikdash and the whole destruction which we're going to see. Okay, if the rabbi has any questions, or we should go weiter.
Yes, we have a question. So the Rav very eloquently and beautifully explained the story that the rabbis didn't want to kick the gentleman out because the gentleman himself was not an honest, ethical person. Yet yet Hashem stood up for him because they themselves were not perfect as well. So this story is usually brought in order to as an example for the notion of sinas chinam, that there was baseless hatred that was prevalent. Meaning the Gemara says that the Yerushalayim was destroyed because of sinas chinam, and this story is usually brought as an illustration of that. But based on this notion that if the person himself was really a Rasha, he was not really a upstanding individual, the one who was kicked out, and the rabbis themselves, the community themselves was not perfect, and therefore Hashem came to the aid of the underdog, which is Hashem's policy. So how does this exactly illustrate unnecessary hatred? It seems like the rabbis did have worthy reason to dislike this individual, and this individual had worthy reason to dislike the rabbis, because at the end of the day, they stood there and watched as he got kicked out. So both sides had valid reasons to be resentful, hateful of the other side. So if that's the case, so how does this really illustrate a example of baseless hatred, of hatred that is not really warranted?
Very good question. The point is like this. The sinas chinam really was between this Baal Kamtzeh and the host.
Bar Kamtzeh and the host.
The host, there, two of them, their fighting was sinas chinam. Now, the Gemara doesn't bring us in all the examples of the unfortunates where the rabbis had the sinas chinam among themselves, where that's where they weren't perfect. That means here they had a good reason to kick the guy out, but they weren't perfect in that particular matter. And the sinas chinam between the two, that the two of them together caused the destruction.
Right. And one last question. So when the Gemara introduces this story and says that a person should always be afraid, and because the people were not afraid, they didn't understand the consequences of their actions, which resulted in the destruction. Kicking this man out, the host didn't think of the consequences of the actions, which eventually resulted in destruction of Yerushalayim. The rabbis didn't think of the consequences of the reactions. So who in particular, when the Gemara introduces the story and says you always have to think things through and understand the effects of one's actions, who in particular is the Gemara talking about in this story that failed to do so?
The answer to this question will be answered in the upcoming Gemara. Okay? Which is, it's the first going to sound very strange to us, but this is the pshat in the Gemara. Very good. We'll get back to this. This is correct. The second part of the pasuk is the first story, and the continuation is the first part of the pasuk. Okay.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
Yeah, so first of all, if anyone has questions, Sheila will enable you to ask also. But so you said that Kamsa bar Kamsa were relatives? I never heard that before.
Actually, Mashal said it was father and son.
Yeah, that makes more sense because the hatred's more personal when it's a close relative. It's more emotional.
I'm sorry.
Oh, the mistake.
The hatred was not between the father and son. The hatred was between the neighbor and the son.
Could the Rav explain again, why was the other party mentioned? Meaning he wanted to invite Kamsa, Instead, Bar Kamsa showed up. So Kamsa didn't do anything wrong. So if Kamsa didn't do anything wrong, he just didn't show up to the party. Could you explain again why his name is mentioned in the story if he seems to be an innocent bystander?
So the answer is that he got insulted, and because he was insulted, he wasn't invited. Your friend makes a party. You're not invited. You show up anyway.
Meaning he should have came to the party even though he
He
wasn't
could have come
invited.
anyway, uninvited
Right.
as well. You can make a party. That's what we mentioned, that people sometimes get insulted and not invited to someone's wedding, and this was an innocent mistake, and they become a whole grudge and a whole fight.
If
And
your real friend show up.
this is exactly what part of what angered the host here, that let alone his friend is not showing up, his good friend is not showing up, and his enemy showing up. If his friend would have showed up, if Kamta would have showed up, that could have avoided the whole story, because then he wouldn't have gotten so angry that his enemy showed up, his friend showed up, but here his friend didn't show up, and on his friend and his enemy is the one that showed up.
He should have come even though he wasn't invited.
Even though he wasn't invited, you know that his friend wants to invite him.
Sure. Sheila, could you enable Howard Schraub? Howard Schraub has a question. Howard, if you could unmute yourself so that the rabbi could hear you. Howard?
This is Rabbi Yitzchak.
You're Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak, if you could unmute yourself. Okay, when he comes back, he'll answer.
Rabbi, you were saying also that the Hashem always protects the underdog, even if the underdog is wrong or going against the righteous people?
Yeah, this is what Chazal say. I'm not saying it.
Wow.
Yeah, have to be careful when you go after people. This is where one of the main lessons that we want to take out from this Gemara is that to be so careful with being Adam Lachaveroi, that to go after people, to do bad things to people, to hate people, etc.
Yeah, excuse me, Rabbi. Hi.
Yeah.
No, you answered my question already. Shkoyach, thank you.
Excellent. Good. Mikro ani so Egel Bekutze, so the man said, Bar Kamsa said, Egel Bekutze, Bemalke, I'm going to go and I'm going to talk bad about the Jews. Ozal, he went, Omalele Keso, he said to the king, Moldecho Yudoi, the Jews rebelled in you. Amalei, says the king, Mi'ema. I don't believe it. Who said so? Amalei, Shodale Kurbane, send me a korban, a sacrifice. Chazi, Simakrivin, see if they're going to bring it up or not. Ozal Shoder, Biyode, Igletil, he sent them a calf. It's like they said the third born. That's something special. And the Marshal also points out Egel Tiltese always brings up the case of the calf of the Egel Azov, and this is when the pasuk says Ubeyoim Pogdi Upakaditi, in the day which I'm going to pay back. This is all the destructions somehow is related back to the Egel, the golden calf. While it was going, he made a blemish beneath Svasayim in the lips. The Malshal also explained that why did he do it in the lips? Because this was a remes for the Lashon Hara. People in that generation spoke too much Lashon Hara about each other. So that's about in the mouth. By the eye. And the Marshal said that was also a remez, a hint. People couldn't forgive. People were jealous of others. They couldn't see people being successful, succeeding. The Tsare Ayin, they couldn't stand, they couldn't see it with their eyes how someone is growing, succeeding. So that was the other thing that he did it in the eye. For us, it was a mum, a blemish, but but for them, it wasn't a blemish. So the Rabbanon thought that maybe we should bring it up anyway, even though it has a blemish, because of being on good terms with the king, because who knows what it can lead to. Amalu, Reb Chaim ben Afkilus said, no way. They're going to say, craving legabe mizbeach, they're going to say that it's allowed to bring up a blemish animal to the mizbeach. So here the question rises, so, but what about Sholem Malchus? What happened to the Sholem Malchus? And the rabbis seemed to go along with him. So the Teretz is, Rabbi say, it's a very interesting, very important lesson here. They figured that this person, even if they're going to bring it up, he's not going to rest. That means he's going to try again. He's going to go back to the king. So what's going to be left over from them bringing up this carbon? It wouldn't save the Sholem Malchus, because this guy, if he's a bad guy, maybe he will go back again. So what's going to be left is going to be that people are going to say that you can be makri balimumi lemizbeach, that you can be makri a blemished animal to mizbeach. They thought to kill him. Why? And he shouldn't go back. Amalu Rabbi Avrohom said weiter. People are going to say that if someone makes a blemish in the animal, will get killed. Now here, it's another big question comes up. Like, what does that mean? So that means that they figured that he did the mum. That means, how did they know? Maybe it's not he did the mum. So that means, for some reason, they understood that he made this mum, it's almost impossible that it should become that this is the animal that the king sent. It says Igle Kilte. He sent like a very good special animal. So he's going to send it with a blemish. So the question is, why didn't they go back to the king? And they said that this guy is the one that put the blemish, and the king should kill him. And that, the answer is the same suffix that we had before, the doubt that we had before. So that was Rabbi Chaim ben Afkilus was also telling them, who said he's going to go back? Maybe he's not going to go back to the king. He tried once and he's not going to go back to the king. And therefore, if you're going to the king and telling the king about him, what's going to happen? They're going to end up killing him, right? So it comes out, he said, it's going to come out that that if someone puts a blemish in a carbon, he deserves to get killed, because what's going to come out, the king is going to end up killing him. The humblest, the anivus of the Chaim ben Afkilus, caused the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. And they burned the Eichel. Now, so when you learn this Gemara, it says, the question is, what exactly was it? Something a good something to praise Rab Chaim ben Afkilus, or something which is not to praise Rab Chaim ben Afkilus? It wasn't necessarily a good thing here. The answer is like this, and this is what the rabbi before mentioned, that what was the first part of the pasuk? Ashrei Yodam Mefachei Tamid. Rab Chaim ben Afkilus was a person that was the opposite of the other rabbis. He was not sure of himself at all. And he was very nervous at what's going to happen over here, that may cause the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Yeah? That meant, of course, in the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, if they're going to say that if they're not going to bring up. So he said like this, Rab Chaim ben Afkilus. There was two options over here. The sinas chinam going on. A lot of bad things. So we prefer, and don't jump, because we're going to explain it in a moment, that the Beis Hamikdash should be destroyed and the Klal Yisrael will be saved. It says in Chazal in Medrash, it says, Mismael leYosef, Elikim, Go Gohi Benachal Losecho. Osef he had a poem, a song, Mizmor. It was a song that the Goyim came to the Beis Hamikdash and they destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. So the Gemara asked, Mizmor, is that a song? Kina leYosef. It should be like sad, like a kines, you should say. Ne'i, a crying. What was the Mizmor leYosef? Answer the Chazal. I shofar HaKadosh Baruch Hu kasoi aletzim ve'adonim. That Hashem came out. Hashem let out his anger on eitzim ve'avonim, on stones and wood, to say the Klal Yisrael. That says in Chazal, Mishkan. The name Mishkan comes as a collateral, like a mastering. That Hashem said, I'm taking the two Beis Hamikdash as a collateral. If you misbehave, it's going to be taken away. So Shavak HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem let out his anger on wood and stones, better than on the Klal Yisrael. And this was Rabbi Chaim ben Afkilus figured. Chaim ben Afkilus was actually Yodam Mefachei Tamid. He was always worried, and he was worried that there's a choice over here, either Klal Yisrael or the Eitzim V'Avonim, and that was Mizmor loss of the song from Asaf, that we prefer that it should go on Eitzim V'Avonim and not on the Klal Yisrael. And this was Rab Chaim ben Afkilus, and Venususoi is being so humble about himself and worried constantly where we up to. And we mentioned Shavak HaKadosh Baruch Hu kasoi al eitzim va'avonim, and wood and stones. That's wood and stones. The Beis Hamikdash, the temple, is wood and stones. So one third. It says, the Gemara later on, hopefully we get to it, Titus went in to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, to the holiest place in the Beis Hamikdash, and he took a Sefer Torah, and he did bad things there in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And nothing happened. We all know Kohen Gadol wasn't perfect, that went into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, gets killed. If a street yayin, someone is drunk, goes into the Beis Hamikdash, gets killed. All of a sudden, this Titus can go in and do what he wants there. The answer is, we have to remember, it wasn't Titus destroying the Beis Hamikdash. it was unfortunate, Klal Yisrael. We kicked out the Shechina from there. And after that, it was just 18 Va'avonim, and therefore Titus was able to go in and do whatever he wanted to do. But the bottom line is, this was Rab Chaim ben Avkilu's idea. This is what Rab Chaim ben Avkilu's figured, that we know something bad is going to happen. Better, we shouldn't pick up the carbon. They shouldn't kill the guy. And they would at least save the Klalis. Okay, any questions?
Anyone have questions for the rabbi? Sheila, do you see anyone?
Okay, no questions. We don't have to look for questions. Okay. Zog die Gemara weiter.
Rabbi, I have one question. We're talking about the first base of English or the second right now?
This is the second.
Okay.
Zog die Gemara weiter.
Actually, we have one question that came up. So he said there was a disagreement between the majority of the Rabbanim and one individual, and the one individual Rav. Right. So he was uncertain. He always, maybe this will happen. So why don't they just go by the majority? Usually they rule by the majority. Why over here do they accept his opinion?
Very good. I saw the question. They asked the question. Apparently, it wasn't that they stuck to their majority. He persuaded them to tell them that they went along to his side. That means he explained to them his fear, what he was fearing of, and they obviously went on his way, his side. So the Gemara Shodalayu Nirun Kesel. He sent Nirun Kesel to go fight with the Jews. It's amazing. Kikosi Shodagire Lemizrach. He also wasn't so confident of himself. He made a goyrel, a raffle. It was stone. Also in Noval Yerushalayim. It fell on Yerushalayim. Lemayri. Also in Noval Yerushalayim. La Baruch Hashemayim. Also in Noval Yerushalayim. So he figured that this is something that if all the stones are falling on Yerushalayim, must be that's he's going to be able to conquer Yerushalayim. Amar Lili Nuke, find the little Yiddish bicycle. Said to them, tell me what you learned in Chumash. Amar Le Venasati Esik Mosi Bedoim. I'm going to give my revenge through Edom. Beyadam Israel. That they're going to be able to destroy the Kal Israel. Boy, on the side he says Nichale. He's preferred to destroy. He's happy. He's satisfied that they're going to destroy the Beis Hamikdash. But they're going. Hashem later on is going to wipe his hands with this man. That means he's going to kill that person too. Orak v'Ozal. So he left. He left the army. He ran away. And he ran away. V'Igaya, and he converted. And Rab Meir came out of him. So the king didn't get tired. So he sent Aspusianus. Osi Tzoralot Lashni. So now this Aspusianus was at a siege around the city for 3 years. And there were 3 wealthiest people there. Nagdimon ben Gurion, Uben Kalba Savua, Uben Tzitzis Aksas. Nagdimon ben Gurion, why was he called Nagdimon ben Gurion? So there's a story in the Chazal that one year he borrowed money from the king. He borrowed water actually from the king for the Oile Regolim, for people that went up to Yerushalayim for Yom Tov. There was no water. and he made up to a certain date, he will return it. Okay, and if not, he's going to have to pay a lot of money. That day came, and there was a sunny day, no clouds in the sky, and the king, he's all excited. He's going to get back all his money, now a lot of money now. So he goes to Nagdim and Begulian, and he tells them, listen, no. So he said, he's still time. And Nagdim went out, and he said, Rabbeinu Shalom, I didn't do it for myself. Send the rain. And sure enough, it started clouds coming, and it filled up all his all the wealth that he took. So then, so the king said, but it's already dark. It's after Shkia. So Hashem said he took away the clouds, and the sun was still shining. That's why Nogdol Echama, the sun stood for him. That's why they named them Nagdim and Megoyim. Ben Kalba Savua. There is an expression, he was hungry like a dog. Anyone that was hungry like a dog went into the house, he fed him, and he became full. Ubetzitis Aksas, what was Betzitis Aksas? That he used to walk on pillows, and then he used to give it to the poor people. So there were the three wealthiest people in Yerushalayim, and they were ready, the Gemara is going to say, they were ready to support the Klal Yisrael for 21 years. And listen what happened. The sun stood for him. That's what we said before. Anyone was hungry like a dog, comes out full. Like his tzitzit was going on pillows, and then poor people used to pick it up, and then they would take it for themselves. Some say he was like very up in the ranks there. One said, I know one said, I'm going to feed everyone with wheat and barley. And one said, with wine and salt and oil. One said with wood. And the Rabbanon praised the one with the wood. Why? For every storage house a week, you need 60 times wood. No, I skipped. Rav Chizda would give over all his keys. He would trust his servant with all his keys, except from the wood. For one storage house a week, we need 60 times storage houses for wood. They were able to feed the whole Yerushalayim 21 years. So there were those bad people, unfortunate, and the Jewish people, Jewish bullies. Rabbanon said to them, let's go out and make peace with them. They didn't let them. Let's make a war. That's what the bully said. It's not going to be you guys are not going to succeed. Come, look what they did. Kalinu, they burned. They burned all the storage houses of the wheat, and it was a hunger. Now the Gemara tells us another story. Mosebas Baisus at Yerushalayim. She was the wealthiest lady in Yerushalayim. But, the Chazal say, she was not so generous like the other wealthy people. The other three wealthy people, they were ready to support everyone. But she was not. And Imal tells us, listen to tell the story what happened. She sent a servant and she said, go get me some the flour. They also, but he went, he's daben, it was sold. Smida leke, Chivalte Ike. He said there's no more of this flour, soft flour, but there's Chivalte, there's a lower level. Amra lazy life, go bring me Adosal. By the time he went, he's daben, it was sold. Also, you don't have that level, he's even a lower level. Amra lazy life. So he tried 4 times. Every time he went, what he went was gone. The Mashal says that these 4 flowers, the kind of flowers, there was 4 different menoches that was made in the Mishkan Beis Hamikdash, and since the Klal Yisrael were mezalzel, they were a little light with the menoches, and this is what caused that should happen, that they should be losing this is why the 4 different flowers she couldn't find. There's a question then was going to ask, why didn't the servant by himself figure out to do it? Okay, that was part of the Gzeira, part of the Oynish, and he shouldn't be doing it. Asi, what is it? My friend, everything was gone. She was now wearing her shoes. I'm going to go out and see if there's something to eat. She didn't wear any shoes, and she stepped on dirt from an animal, and there was a very Easternese, very mefunek, umesa, and she died. Also very soft. She never stepped foot, and then she's also going to die. She ate the fig of Rab Tzadok, and he was going to say what happened. Rab Tzadok Yosef, the date from Rab Tzadok, and she died. Rab Tzadok Yosef Aboshnin Bektanise, he was sitting 40 years in a tiny Yerushalayim should not be destroyed. Can you imagine? When he would eat something, it was being seen from the outside. When he was getting well, they would give this date, ma'itz, they would squeeze it out, mayu, v'shadalu. So she took that date and she couldn't handle it and she died. And she was dying. He threw out all the gold and silver. Whoever wants to take it, I have no usage from it. She threw out all the gold and silver. This is part of the clothes that they're going to be thrown out, their gold and silver, with no usage. And this is the story that happened. It's one of the stories that happened at the time. Now we're going to go back to the previous Gemara. So if anyone has questions, it's the time to ask.
Rabbi, so whose gold was thrown out? That's the Jews' gold, or whose gold was thrown out?
This lady, most of Advisus, she was the richest woman in Yerushalayim.
And why was it?
Her own gold and silver she threw out.
And why again? I'm sorry. Why was?
She said she has no usage from it anymore. They have no food. What's she going to do with the gold and silver?
So that's a mashal to what? The Torah? Or what is that supposed to teach us?
It's one of the bad things that's going to happen in the time of the Golus, of the destruction, that people are going to say there's no value to the gold and silver, to all the money. Okay, yeah? Abba Sikre, Reit Biryoine di Yerushalayim. Abba Sikre, he was the head of the Biryonim, the head of the bullies. He was their leader. He was a nephew of Rabbi Avrohom Kaplan. Rabbi Avrohom Kaplan sent a message to call him. He came hidden when he was hiding. Oh, he told them, how much longer are you going to do that? And you're going to kill the whole Jerusalem with hunger. Amale, listen to the leaders respond. It sounds familiar to these days. What am I going to do? The Aminelu Midi, the leader, tells the rest of the group something that they don't like. Katli, they're going to kill me. You hear the leader is saying? The leader is saying that if you think, what the leader said, that if I do say something which the people don't like, the leader, they're going to kill the leader. So he said, give me a solution. Let the that I should be able to get out. Maybe it will be some kind of rescue. He say, announce that you're not well. Everyone's going to ask, how is Rabbi Avrohom doing? And then they're gonna say he died. They're going to put something that smells bad. They're going to put it next to you. They're going to announce that he died. And only you students, the Talmudim, should carry you, and not anyone else. Why? They shouldn't feel that you lied, because a lied person is a chai noises hatzmoi. He's lighter than a dead person. The kolilat yunu yada the chai kolim mise. Avidachi did so. Nichlas Rabbi Lozo mitzadechet Rabbi Shua mitzadachi. Rabbi Shua went from one side, and Rabbi Lozo from the other side. Kimatu lepische. When he came to the opening by the wall, by the gate, so the Biryonim wanted to stab him and make sure he's dead. They're going to say that they stabbed the rabbi. So even the Biryonim had some kind of respect. They wanted to push him. They're going to say the rabbi, that they pushed the rabbi. They opened the door, Nafaki went out. Kimateli also when he met the general. Amalu, Shalom Alech Malke, Shalom Alech Malke, Shalom Aleichem Melech, Shalom Aleichem Melech. Amalei responded back, now you deserve twice to get killed. Why? First of all, I'm not a king. And you call me a Melech, which is rebelling the previous king. If I was a king, why didn't you show up to us? To me. Amalei responded back to Kramis La Malkiano, returning to Nunvava with base 56b. Ivri, Malkiat, you are a king. They love Malkiat. If you wouldn't be a king, Yerushalayim would not be given to you in your hands. The Levonoin, which he was going to say the Beis Hamikdash, the Hadir is in a king. The Beis Hamikdash can only fall through a king. So the Beis Hamikdash is referred to Levonoin. If you're going to ask me if I'm the king, why, if you're the king, why didn't I show up to you till now? The Biryonim, the bullies that we have around us, they don't let us. So the king responded as Tishanus. Ilu, Chavi Shel Dvash, V'dalkein karuch alei. If there's a barrel of honey and there's a snake surrounding it, it wouldn't break the barrel for the snake. I mean, they should have, cracked the barrel and then killed the snake. What is that? What does that have to do with here? So he said the barrel is the choyma, the wall, and the honey is the tzaddikim, and the dalkein were the bullies. So they should have, break the wall, and then the snake will get killed. Ishtik. He kept quiet. Kori ale Rabbi Yosef, veiteme Rabbi Kivi, meishiv kako mimocher, vedaito misokel. That sometimes the rabbis, what they should have answered, they for a moment they lose it. They don't give the answer. But the Marsha answered that the chat is as meishiv kako mimocher. Who causes Chachamim to lose it? The behavior of the Klal Yisrael. Just had a Gemara in Shabbos. Lo nisnabu nevim elo b'shvil Yisrael. Nevim, when they get nevuah, they only get it because of the Klal Yisrael. It said there in last week's parasha, Vaydaber Hashem Eli, that Moshe said 38 years Hashem didn't speak to him below Shechiba. Because it wasn't to get the Klal Yisrael, didn't apply to the Klal Yisrael. It's all for the Klal Yisrael. The leaders of the Klal Yisrael are leaders also depends on the Klal Yisrael. It says the Goyim came to complain to the Rabbeinu Shloim that we have a Moshe Rabbeinu. And they also want a Navi, a prophet like Moshe Rabbeinu. So what did they get? Pilam. The question is that fear? Is that, the same way of like Moshe Rabbeinu? So one third of Shem Rabbi Krause. So he said, Moshe Rabbeinu is Moshe Rabbeinu because it said, Mikerev acher otosim alech melech. Moshe Rabbeinu grew from the Klal Yisrael. The way the Klal Yisrael behaves, this is the way the leaders are. Panim Visharov once said, a yeshiva bocher, a boy in a yeshiva builds the yeshiva, is a builder. Altika banayich alaboynoich, builders. Because the way the crowd is, the way the boys are, this is the kind of shield that the Rebbe needs to prepare. So they are building the yeshiva. The Klal Yisrael builds their leaders. And that's why they have a Moshe Rabbeinu. The Goyim, they acted the way they are. Therefore they get a leader like Bilam. So this is the Pshat. Meishiv Chacham Imocher. When Klal Yisrael misbehaves, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai cannot answer to the king. He should have told them, Shaklin and Tzafse, Shaklin Ledaken, Vekatlin Chavita Shafkinen. He should have answered, I could take a plier and kill the snake. Here we couldn't do it. And we leave the barrel complete. As they were talking, came a messenger from Rome. Amalekum, get up, the Meister Kaiser. The king died. And the head of Rome decided to make you the king. So he was finishing putting on one shoe. He's trying to put the other shoe. Didn't go. He wanted to take off the other one. Didn't come off. What is that? I like it's tired. Don't feel bad. we got a good news. And it says that when someone gets good news, the bone gets wider. Elamaita Kante, so what's my solution? I'm stuck. He said, no, don't worry about it. Take a person that you can't stand. They would basically shrink the bone. He did that. It worked. They shook him on. So again, I see you're so smart. Why didn't you show up to Nalagabai? Omale said, didn't I tell you? Omale, I know I also answered you. Omale. So as Messiah says, I'm going back. And I'm sending another person. Ask me something that I will give you. Give me Yavne and the Chachomim Yavne. There's a shield to the Ram Gamliel, and I wanted that David HaMelech's, lineage would continue. And a doctor, Te'il Rab Tzadok, is the one that we said that he fasted 40 years. The same thing with them, Rabbi Akiva, that smart people sometimes do that, and the way we explained it before, this is because of the behavior of the Klal Yisrael. He should have said, he should leave us one time. He should he should spare us this time. He thought that if he asked too much, you get nothing. What was the doctor that they gave to Rab Tzadok? They gave him water that was soaked in wheat. And the mochamai the sipuke, the mochamai the kimche. Then the next time was the water in flour. Adrovach me pulte until it widened. Pulte until it came well. Okay, so this is the end of this story. So anyone any more questions?
Yes, we have a question. It's to ask for Yavne v'Chachameha was to keep the tradition of the Torah, the Masorah. To ask for the lineage of Beis David was for the Mashiach. But why was it so necessary for him to ask that the Rab Tzadok should be healed? What was, if you have three wishes, why use one of the wishes on that request?
The answer to that is I think what we had in Lamed Aleph, that Rab Tzadok fasted 40 years to keep Yerushalayim going. He held up the destruction for 40 years. So he felt that if we're going to have Rab Tzadok around, that could help the Klal Yisrael to survive longer. Okay?
Rabbi, I was just curious. What we're talking about the second Beis Hamikdash in the Gemara before the first?
No. It's all talking about the second.
So what about the first? The Gemara doesn't deal with that?
In other places, maybe next year in Yerushalayim, New York.
Well, hopefully it won't be in next year. If anyone else has questions,
I said Yerushalayim.
if anyone has questions, please let Sheila know.
Rabbi Yankev, the Elam is good, Baruch Hashem, so that's good. Okay, right. Okay, so now comes starting the destruction. Shadre Titus, he sent Titus V'Amar, and he said, "Hey, Eloi came by, Tzuchasoyi boy. Oh, Eloi came by, Tzuchasoyi boy. That Titus Aroshe." This is referring to Titus, Shekidei, Begidei, Klape Mailo. Like an expression that the Rebbe Shalom basically looked away. That Titus went ahead. What did he do? Sofa, Zayna Beyotoi. Oi, to Kazayna and his heaven, it must have been touching Katie Akodoshi. Wait, yeah, say, but they go, the other yeah. And we said before, everybody said, let him do it. Oh, even not outside, we get there, he took a sword, he stabbed the Peruches, and asked the nate for your damn bat space for Yaitse. And blood was coming out. Oh. What was the point of the blood coming out? That to show that the Rebbeinu Shlomo was also bleeding from the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Because it's an expression that he thought that, basically that Hashem, I make a Savur Gesatmi, Shenema, Shoagutzei Derecho, I Shoagutzei Derecho, Bekerev Moyadecho. Shamu oisois from oisois. Yep. Abuchani Neima Mikomeich Chasim Ko. Mikomeich Chasim Bekoshe. Who is a God like you that can handle, can hear? Shatashemei An Yutzi V'Giduva Shalei Seroshe. You hear all these things of this Moshe saying. V'Shaisek and keep quiet. Zwei Rabbi Shmuel told Mikomeich Be'elim Hashem. Said Mikomeich Be'elim. Mikomeich is like you, Be'ilmim, like mute, he doesn't talk. Ma also not al Tapareches, Ve'asavei Kemin Tugisini. He took the Pareches, he made it like a basket. I Ve'yevi Kol Kelim Shebe'amikdosh. Ve'nichon Bo'eh. He took all the utensils, all the kelim, the kishoris of the Beis Hamikdash, and he put it into this Pareches. Ve'yeshivam Bisfino. And he went, put it in the boat. He went to praise himself in the city. Shenema. I still had Rishoyim buried. Ubayu in the coming Mokim Kodesh Yalechu. Veishtaku boyim, veishtakechu boyim. Asher kein also, the most going to explain, Ati Yukfurim el Kvutzim, don't say they're buried, rather they gathered. Atikre veishtaku, ela veishtaku. They're going to praise, like to be proud of themselves, to show off. You can have some say kvurin mamesh, rather buried. They feel of me, the mila de mitamon iglailun. Even things which was covered, things that in Beis Hamikdash, and it was God revealed to him. Omad olav nashe shebayad letoifoi. It's a big wave in the water, wanted to drown him. Oh, my Peter said, Kemedumi ani. Oh, I imagine, I think. Oh, Shelekem Chielu and Gurosel Bamai. It's only I came down the water. But still, I came down the give a maybe broke. You have to and she told you, I call it
Rabbi Kaplan, there's something wrong with the audio. It's static now. I'm not sure what changed, but
Yeah, the last minute or two, maybe the connection went bad, but hopefully it will get better. Go ahead, maybe try, and we'll see if it gets better. The last minute, I think people couldn't hear. I thought it was mine, but it looks like it was others. We can hear you now, so maybe just go back the last minute we missed.
Okay, let's see.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so it's better now.
Yes.
Okay. Nothing changed by me, so I don't know. Okay, let's see. So he said, water.
Yeah, Rabbi, it's getting bad again. I don't know if it's because of the when you speak, we can hear you, but maybe when you, I don't know why the audio is working that way. Maybe if we could talk slower or just talk it, maybe it will be clearer. Maybe it's the I don't know, the tune. I'm not sure what's making it. I'm not sure because it.
Give us a minute.
Someone texted on the chat. It could be the back and forth. I don't know what it is. Maybe when you move back and forth, it shakes something. I don't know.
No. I haven't changed anything. Maybe the battery here. Okay,
because we can hear you now perfectly. Thank you.
Okay. So he said, he said, come up to me. No. Let's see, 1 second. Let me see a second. He went up to the dry land. He went up to the dry land. Is it better or worse? Same?
I think, Rabbi, I don't know what is going on with the internet, but when you if you just speak it, I think it's fine. Maybe it's the niggin. I'm not sure what's going on, but something's making it.
The niggin. No, but it's all of a sudden happened. Let me see here. Maybe it's the.
But like right now, it's crystal clear.
That's when you speak, it's clear. Maybe from the it was from the connection, the host.
No. Howard thinks it's the niggin. Maybe let's try without the niggin for a little bit. Let's see if it works.
No, it doesn't work without the niggin. Okay, let's see. Go up to the dry land and make a milchama. He went into the dry land and it went into his nose. 7 years. He went to an iron man and he was knocking with a hammer and the fly got scared. Ishti. Oma, he said, "Ike takante." No, I asked every day they would hire this. Is it better or the same?
It's better, but it's still not perfect. But I think maybe just if we could just go a little slower, maybe, but more of a conversation. Something with the internet's not strong right now.
Rabbi, is there something when you move the mouse on your screen? Is there something at the top left that says "Turn on original sound"?
No. I think maybe we'll do something.
That might help.
I'm gonna try something else.
Okay.
Okay. A little technical difficulty. Tisha B'Av's not so bad.
Right.
No, listen, we did pretty good for what.
Excellent. Not pretty good. Great.
Does anyone have questions? Rabbi Babbage, any questions from the chat?
Sometimes if you log out and log in again, it could be your internet connection.
Okay, now
It's up to you.
we're gonna try now. Let's see if it's better now.
Yes, I hear you better now. Sure.
Okay, good. So we switched to, okay, good. I'm scared the battery from that other, the hotspot was schwach.
Weak.
Okay. So boy, when ich not bechoit, yeah, so I'm sorry, the higher this man, every day, would knock and they were hoping that it would come down, so start picking him. Lenochi Yoiv Lealbe Susei, for Nantu, he would give four coins. Le Israel. What? Lenochi Israel, Amalei Mistayo, the Chachos is noch. For Eid, if the Iron Man was a Eid, he wouldn't pay him. He said, enough that you see me, your enemies suffering. Avadochi, Atlas Yomin Avadochi, up to 30 days it was working. After they got used to it, you picking it. I was among the big guys in Rome who Kishemeis, when Titus died, Patsu es Moichoi, Umatsubai Kitziper Dror Mishkal Shnei Sloim. They found here, like his brains was they found burned here, like like 2 liters. Omar Abayim, Naktinen Piv Shel Nechoishev, his mouth was made out of copper, Vetzipornov Shel Balzel, and his nails was and Titus his will. Omalu Likliu Lau Gavre should burn Titus. Believe the Lekatme Yashov Yame, and you should you should basically put out the ashes over the 7 oceans. The that the Jewish God should not find them. They look Mebedine should put them to court. Listen, this is unbelievable. Unkelus Bar Kulinkus, Unkelus, Barachse de Titus, he was a nephew of Titus, he wanted to convert. Titus Benegide. So he went and he took down Titus with Kishef, magic. Who is important in the next world? Is it something, a good idea to join them, to convert to them? Nope. They have too many mitzvahs, you're not going to be able to handle it. Go fight with them. Whoever fights with the Jews, become the leader.
Whoever fights with the Jews becomes a leader, is that what the Rabbi said?
Yeah. He pays a big price for it. What is he getting punished, that man? We're going to Nuzayin Amudaf. What he caused on himself. Every day. They gather ashes and they judge him every day. And they burn him. And again, to disperse his ashes over the 7 oceans. Again, who is important in that world? So he said, should I stuck with them? Should I get close to them? Should I convert? Don't search for the goods ever. What's the judgment of that person that does that? They take burning. Then he took down the Pesha Yisrael. So listen to the difference, what the answer is found from the Pesha Yisrael, the Jewish, rebellions, the Titus and Bilam.
What's a Poshe Yisrael? I'm sorry?
Pesha Yisrael is the rebelling, those that rebel, the Jews that rebel.
Rebel against Hashem.
They rebel against Judaism.
Okay.
Amalei man Choshi Awal who is important in that world. Amalei Israel Mauli Dibuke Beyu. Should I join them? Amalei Tevasam Terabavavaish. You should look for the goods. Reosam Leititroish. Don't look for the bad. The opposite, only the good. Whoever touches them, like he's touching, it's an expression, like he's touches in his own eye. What is the punishment of the one that touches them? Dirt, burning dirt. Whoever is making fun of what the Chachamim said, what the rabbi said, neither in Betzoyer or Tachas is being burned with burning dirt. So the difference between the Pesha Yisrael, the Jews that they rebel, no matter what, even though they're being punished, but they still say, Tevasam broish, Osam alti broish. Tanya, Tanya Marablozov, come and see. How strong is it embarrassing a person? Remember the story that we started today. Hashem helped out, supported Bakamtze, Ve'yechi, Ve'zbeisai, Ve'soraf, Ve'seitchobaboboloi. It helped. So, I think we're going to stop here. Just going to summarize that what we had today is that Sinas Chinam, embarrassing someone, people don't even know how embarrassing it is. The Gemara in Tesis in Seita says that a person has to give up his life not to embarrass someone. We learned it out from Tomal. Tomal said, Mutav sha'apil atzmi l'terkif shenei v'alal b'pnei chaverim barabim. Rather, I should be burned and not embarrass someone. We all know the Kol HaTorah Kula, if a guy forces a Jew to violate one of the mitzvahs, he has to violate. He's not allowed to give up his life. It says v'chai bohen, except for 3 averes: avodah zorah, worshiping idols, gilui arayos, and shfiras dami, murder. Taisa said the 4th one, embarrassing someone. Embarrassing someone is like killing someone. And this is what we mentioned earlier. I want to get into it now, that this is when the Torah dikal isirzach, this is when there is the distinction between the mitzvah of the isirzach, than the Torah the learning of Lisirtzach, that in killing someone is including embarrassing someone. A person gets red, his colors change. That's like actually murdering. So now we're still hoping Mashiach Kol Moyed that this Tisha B'Av should turn around to a Yontev. But the way we should be Mashiach is, Rabbi Isai, is obviously that we have to be very careful. But the way to be able to become a better person, to become a different person, is only through the learning. The learning changes the person. The Rabbeinu Shalom when Mashiach is going to come. America Medrash, I was shocked from the Medrash. Medrash says the Rabbeinu Shalom is going to ask us, how did we make it all these years? And the response from Klal Yisrael will be, is because of your Torah. Without the Torah, we wouldn't be able to survive one day. So every person, all of us, should undertake to make more times to learn and hopefully become better people. And the Benodam Lamokim and Benodam Lachaveiroi should get stronger. Should Thank you,
Rabbi Kaplan, so much for your time and your shiur, what the meaning and insight to our Tisha B'Av observance. Please God, next year we should gather to learn Hilchos Binyan Beis Hamikdash.
We should start now. We should start now. So by the time next year,
we'll be ready. Yes. Okay. The Project Inspire class is going to begin at 1 o'clock. Please contact Sheila and to provide you the access code. And after that, everyone's encouraged to join the Chavetz Chaim video presentation. The link is included in the email. Everyone should have a meaningful and easy fast. And once again, we thank Rabbi Kaplan for providing us with much meaning during this day.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. Thank you.
Go off, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you. Easy fast.
thank you. Okay.
Where's all the people?
They left.
What? We're still on it.